Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Recha Qudash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And today I want to, get into this, really deal with a little bit of Ezekiel 38, but there's a particular verse in there, that I just wanted to highlight in connection to this article. And this is a, well, let me just read the headline, right? So Khamenei warns Israel of, quote, crushing response, ramping up rhetoric ahead of U.S. election, which at this point was in a couple of days, right, a day or two. And there's a lot of things happening, right? There's all this back and forth about lack of integrity at the different, voting sites and different sides, different parties doing this and X and Y and all those things. But at the same time, I was watching the lesson that the elder apostle Tahar had done on all hell, possibly breaking loose on November 5th, right? And he mentioned in there that the whole world is watching, right? Everybody is watching because different sides of different countries have invested interests based on who ends up winning this election, because then it affects their plans, whether they can work with said individual, whether they can't work with said individual. But the point here being that everybody is watching, right? And they're all looking. Some are probably planning to interfere, right? But they're all watching to see, okay, who ends up doing what. Now, so long story short, something could happen. And we're going to watch and see. But pivoting back a bit more towards this article here, it says, I'm going to read a little bit of it. Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has issued a new fierce warning to the United States and Israel at a moment there continues to be speculation that Iran could hit back for the last early Saturday morning attack by Israel, which involved over 100 IAF jets attacking Iranian military sites. Now, actually, I believe might not have been yesterday, but might have been the day before. I did see something about the U.S. sending some bombers over there to the east, to the Middle East, in particular around concerning this back and forth between Israel and Iran. So he addressed an audience of students connected with the anniversary of the 1979 takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran by Islamic revolutionary students. Quote unquote, the enemies, whether the Zionist regime or the United States of America, will definitely receive a crushing response to what they are doing to Iran and the Iranian nation and to the resistance front, the 85-year-old Shia cleric said. It is unclear if this means Iran is preparing a response. He previously said that Iranian leaders would weigh a potential response and that the last weekend attack should not be exaggerated nor downplayed. The crowd of supporters hailed Khamenei and his message with cheering, chanting, "The blood in our veins is a gift to our leader." But and so there, when it comes to like the Persians, right, for example, which are the Iranians, they have that fierce-ish nature, and what I mean by that is they don't just let things go, right? They don't just forget about things. They don't just let things go. Maybe they don't respond right away, but it doesn't mean that it's not in their heads. And at the end of the day, what's in their heads is controlled by the Heavenly Father, right? Proverbs 21:1 tells you that. 2 days prior to Khamenei's Saturday speech, Axios reported that Iran is still preparing a major retaliation. Israel's strikes on missile and military facilities was itself a much anticipated response to the October 1st ballistic missile attack. While most regional observers believe that the tit for tat has cooled down, reflected in declining oil prices this week, the Axios report cited a pair of Israeli officials to say Israeli intelligence suggests Iran is preparing to attack Israel from Iraqi territory in the coming days, possibly before the US election. So there's this mix here, right, of like what's going on over there because the US is involved and the timing coinciding with the US election, but it's also very possible that Iran could have insiders in the US already. They opened the border for how God knows how long. So it's not, you don't know who and how many of who are in the country right now. Okay. I'm going to read this real quick. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu signaled on Thursday that Iran's nuclear program could be Jerusalem's next line of attack, as Tehran promises to return fire following last week's airstrikes. The supreme objective that I have said, quote unquote, right, for the IDF and the security services is to prevent Iran from attaining nuclear weapons. Now, the reason, right, in which why I was mentioning Ezekiel 38 is because with what's going on here, right, you have what we just read about Iran mentioning Israel and the US, right? Iran mentioning Israel and the US, this back and forth, right? Israel and the US. Now, the US obviously is Babylon, as hated as she is, she's still a superpower in terms of like their military might, in terms of weapons. It's still pretty up there. Okay. But when it comes down to it, the second, and that's why they've been very, they've been trying to play defensive, even though they really want to play offensive. But they have to be very careful, because the second they start stepping in to the point where it's now, okay, Israel and US, overwhelming or attempting to overwhelm something like a country like Iran, for example, then you have Russia on the other side, which, as the scriptures say, and you're even seeing it in real life due to their alliance, right? Their interests, their vested interest in each other. Russia steps in there, and now that's a problem. So when you go to Ezekiel 38, rereading from verse 7 down, right, to about verse maybe verse 9 or 8, right? This here is dealing with Russia, right? Now this is the prophecy concerning Russia and the nations that are going to be allied, some listed in here, with Russia during this war against the other side, right? So reading it real quick, this is Ezekiel 38 verse 7. It says here, "Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee." This is dealing with Russia, right? And when you go into the word prepared, right, it goes into being established, being like firm, being fixed, being on point and ready for when this time comes. So you jump back to 2016, for example, Russia wasn't in the state of readiness or preparedness as it is now. Okay. It says, "And all thy company that are assembled unto thee," that company assembled unto them, right? As we're gonna go and matter of fact, hold on a second. Let me actually jump up a bit. Yeah. The main part I want to get is gonna be in the 7th verse, but I want to jump up a bit to verse 4, right? So it says here, "I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws," right? This is dealing with Russia, "and bring thee forth." So the Most High is the one who's going to be stirring them up. But was the Most High going to jump off his throne and come down and have a meeting with Putin? No. But he's going to use his angels to control the events going on in the world, the thoughts of these different rulers, to create this reaction that leads to Russia. Well, now you see Russia in the state that they're in now, talking about the use of nuclear weapons, and this wasn't what they were necessarily talking about 2016 and those years ago, because they had treaties. But what you saw was the Lord started to rip up those treaties, disannul those treaties, and get the world closer and closer to the brink of a nuclear war, to where now the actual parties that will partake in the nuclear war are talking about it. Anyway, it says here, "I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, right, the military, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company, with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, right, and this is the key part that we want to deal with here, Persia. Now, we know who, if I was just to type in Persia in Google, you would see the first Iran, right? So in case you weren't aware, Persia is Iran. The Persians are the Iranians today, right? Which biblically are known as the Elamites. So anyway, going back here, Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, with them, all of them with shield and helmet, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarma, of the north quarters, and all his bands, the bands going into their armies, and many people with who? With Russia. So all these nations listed here are going to be allied with Russia. But more importantly, right, in verse 7, it says, be thou prepared, right, as we were reading earlier, be thou prepared, be set, alert, and ready, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee. And a part of that company is going to be Iran. Now it says here, so once you're prepared, and be thou a guard unto them. And when you go into the word guard, right here, you have the Hebrew word mashamar. And I think the most accurate definition here, because there's different, the thing about the Hebrew is that it's not as extensive, right, as I want to let's just say it's not as detailed as the English language. Where the English language, you can use, there are words, right, that you can use specifically for exactly what you're referring to here. With Hebrew, for example, a good portion of the meaning is implied by the way the word is used. And that is why when you look at some of these words, you will see in the outline of biblical usage, you'll see different definitions here for the same word. And that is because of the way that this word is used. That's the whole point of the biblical usage, right? Yeah, and it's basically to say that throughout the Bible, how is this word used? And these are the definitions they've derived from that. So sometimes you may be reading in the scriptures and it's talking about a place of confinement or somebody being thrown in a prison, and the word there is shamar or mashamar, right? But then also you may come across a part in the scriptures that deals with guarding or the act of guarding, right? Like to protect or to guard, and it's the same word. So oftentimes the definition is derived from the meaning is derived from the context by which the word is used. So when you come down, for example, you'll see, for example, Genesis 40:3, and he put them in ward in the house of the captain of the guard. Ward here being that prison, right? Which is one use case of the same word. The word ward here in the Hebrew is the same word. That's why they've highlighted it in red, right? The place where Joseph was bound. In this case, is used in the form of like a prison. But then you have the case here in Ezekiel, where it says, "Be thou a guard unto them." Not in the sense of being a prison unto them, but being a guard as in the act of guarding, right? So, for users of the Blue Letter Bible, these are, when you see some of these definitions here, though sometimes they put in definitions, though they might not put a definition that should be in there. When you see the different kinds of definitions, 1, 2, 3, these are all use cases of the same word. So it's up to you to be able to identify, well, what would it actually be based on the context of the verse? Anyway, for here, it would be the act of guarding, right? Now, when you're guarding someone, you're watching them, and you are, like, if you have a security guard, your security guard has a close watch on you, but the security guard doesn't necessarily have to step in until something happens or they anticipate something happening that will harm you or, can be a potential danger. That is when the security guard steps in. So you see Russia is hovering, right? They're around here, but by them being allotted the position of a guard onto these nations, including Persia, something would have to happen that escalates. And when that escalates, Russia then has to step in to play that role of a guard. And that's why right now, yeah, Russia is like, they got their eyes there, but they're not fully involved with the conflict over there, with Iran and Israel in the Middle East. They'll make comments about it here and there, but this role of them being the guard takes full effect when, that trigger happens, right? Where this thing goes, all right, this guard, Russia has to actually step in here, right? And also in the midst of that, you're gonna have though you see it happening now, right, via our systems and organizations like BRICS and so on, the lines are going to be drawn deeper and deeper in the sand that show you the two sides, okay, that eventually are going to end up in this war, one against another. But anyway, that's pretty much what I wanted to highlight in here. So as we see these kinds of articles here and, the election coming up and the tension between these two, it's always good to keep in mind what prophecy says concerning World War III, the nations involved, and especially these key players, how they enter into this war, right? Or how they how things escalate with them, because it's all written in the book. So anyway, Lord willing, this is edifying and informative to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.